The hunter who does not respect the land would one day fall prey to his own arrow. Welcome to Mangali, Tales Beyond the Grasslands. I am your host, Miriam. I am bringing you stories that have wandered through time, evolving into lessons that invite us to reflect, reconnect, and re-emerge with clarity and purpose. Today's story is about Wandong, a great man who disregarded the universal law of harmony. Once upon a time, in a village 2 walking days from here, there lived a hunter named Wandong. He was the greatest huntsman the land had ever known. So fearsome was his skill that at the mere scent of his presence, the bush would fall silent. The birds would flee to the tallest trees, the antelopes would vanish into the thickest bush, and even the smallest creatures, like the burrowing cane rat, fondly known as grombeef, hid deep underground. When Wandong left his home with his bow, arrow, and traps, the animals of the land disappeared. They would rather starve than fall victim to his aim. Soon enough, the fear of Wandong brought imbalance. A whole month had passed, and still the animals remained in hiding. The forest grew eerily quiet. Hunger took hold, not just among the animals, but in the villages too. The elders whispered among themselves. Had the hunter become a curse instead of a blessing? One day, a bushfowl from a neighboring land wandered into Wandong's hunting grounds. It was unlike any bushfowl you've ever met if you're in the business of meeting bushfowls. This kind carried mischief in its eyes and tricks under its wings. The bushfowl was surprised to find the bush empty. Ah, why am I hide so? Wetin dey happen? It called out, its voice echoing in the silence. Now a small grumbeef, peeking from a hidden burrow, answered with a whisper. Now that one dong the hunter man. He don't catch all man so they when we jo hear he order, all man the wrong hand. That one dong na bad thing say hunter man. If he catch any kind beef, if he see you, he go catch you. Now the grumbeef shivered. Enter my hole, hide with me, I beg, before he see you. The bushfowl, though grateful, found the grumbeef's burrow cramped and cold. After a night of restless sleep and knowing hunger, frustration started to bubble in its belly. This one don't check say be who sef for staff the whole bush. He say be hunter man no. Me sef I go hunt Wandong. At dawn, the air carried the familiar musk. The bushfowl, now resolved in its plan, flapped its wings and soared into the sky before diving straight towards a wandering figure in the bushes. On closer inspection, it recognized that scent. It recognized the gait, the bow, the arrow, and the traps carried in the human's back. Surely this is not Wandong, it thought to itself. On further inspection of its surroundings, this appeared to be Lake Womb. The lake's surface was like glass, so still that it seemed one could walk across it. And yet the air around it carried a shiver, an unseen presence that made even the bravest pause at its edge. This was sacred, the bushfowl thought to itself. It had heard people say Lake Womb was the seat of the ancestors, the threshold into the land of the beyond. Others had whispered that treasures and dangers alike were hidden in its depths. It was in this very lake that long ago a high priestess had vanished into the water, and when she returned, she brought the secret that saved her people from the slave traders who had come around the time of the Great War, seeking to steal them away to their doom. The bushfowl hurried to the village, flapping its wings wildly as it squawked. Some man dey hunt for sacred bush oh! Una get for stop it before bad thing happen. But the villagers only laughed and waved the bushfowl away. You and your lies. We'll not go fall for your tricks today. Defeated, the bushfowl turned back, knowing that Wandong was walking straight into his own doom. If no one would stop him, it would have to take matters into its own hands. Determined, the bushfowl flew back to the lake and plunged into its still waters. Deeper and deeper it went until it reached the domain of the god of the hunt, a being cloaked in shifting shadows and light. Great spirits, the bushfowl squawked, prostrating flat on the grounds and clapping its wings 3 times as the custom demanded when meeting royalty. I seek your blessing to teach a hunter the lesson he refuses to learn. The god of the hunt studied the small bird for a long time. Then, with a voice like the rustling of ancient trees, it said, "To trick the unyielding, you must bear the mark of the trickster. Do you accept?" The bushfowl nodded, and in an instant, power surged through its body. A shiver of transformation overtook it. When it resurfaced, something had changed. The bushfowl's head immediately fell away, but yet it lived, its form imbued with spiritual trickery. It had become Wafuma'a, the first of its kind, a creature of magic and mischief. Wandong's keen eye caught the movement instantly. I don't catch 'em," he whispered with a hunter's delight. He crept forward, careful not to disturb the water, and reached for the bushfowl. But as he lifted it, he gasped. "Eee!" In disgust, he tossed the bird back into the water. "And it chop me beef when no get hit." The hunter turned to leave, but then he heard it again. Something rustling, like wings flapping against the currents of the lake. Wandong hesitated. It spun back towards the lake. There it was again, a floating, headless bird. He picked it up, and once more there was no head. He tossed it aside and started walking away, and yet there it was, the same rustling noise. 5 more times the same thing happened. Each time the bird appeared, and each time it had no head. Each time Wandong had fallen for his trick, and without realizing, he'd ventured further into the sacred lake, finding himself in the center of the lake. Wandong suddenly came to a realization that his feet were no longer in contact with solid ground. The air grew thick, charged with something beyond the realm of men, and Wandong's hands trembled. Then the sky darkened. Thunder rumbled in the distance. The forest, once silent, was now alive with whispers. The ground beneath Wandong's feet felt different, like something ancient had stirred. The voice of the ancestors whispered in his ear, You have hunted without balance, taken without gratitude. Now you will learn what it means to be prey. Wandong turned to run, to solid ground, to the bush. But everything had changed. The trees loomed taller, their roots shifting like serpents. The shadows stretched, swallowing the light, and behind him he heard the rustling sound of Wafuma'a's wings and a low and knowing laughter. And for the first time, Wandong felt fear. Days passed, and the lack of the great hunter's musk in the air was becoming quite noticeable. The village chief remembered that Wafuma'a had said something about Wandong's hunting. So he sent a group of able-bodied men to go and investigate. When the villagers went searching for the great hunter, they found only his bow and arrows lying at the edge of the lake. The water was still, holding its secrets. Some say he was swallowed by the spirits of the land, punished for his arrogance. Others say he wanders still, a shadow in the trees, learning the ways of the hunted. One thing is for certain, since that day, no hunter in the village dares to take more than they need. And whenever the people hear the rustling of the bushfowl's wings, Wafuma'a still watches, and the balance of the land remains. This story is just one example of how the Aghem people are taught to view the world, not through separation, but through interconnectedness. We are reminded that every challenge, every triumph, and every change is part of a larger spiritual narrative that began long before us and will continue long after. As we reflect on Wandong's story, I invite you to think about your own connections to the story. What part do you play in the world around you? Are you Wandong, whose pride and ambition pushed him to hunt and reach further than he could handle, further than the balance of the society could handle? Or are you Wafuma'a, whose ingenuity and tricks pushed him to seek creative solutions to the community's problems? Perhaps you're the elders who refuse to heed the words of someone just because they seemed to be beneath your status. Maybe you're the Grumbif who took in a stranger, gave him a home, even for a few days. If you've enjoyed today's story, please subscribe, share, and leave a comment. Maybe next time we would continue in the Wandong and Wafuma'a multiverse of stories. This has been Mangali, Tales Beyond the Grasslands, where stories live, breathe, and carry us beyond. And until next time, I've been your host, Mirriam. May your path be clear, your heart be steady, and may the Spirit watch over you.